Okay, welcome to the July 23rd core team meeting. And our agenda is now in public issues on the Rustlang core team repo. Pietro, do you want to say anything about that?
I finally got the time to publish it. Yeah, so hopefully that will increase the transparency of the core team and it will be easier to consume that than YouTube videos that Carol occasionally posts.
Or at least consume in tandem with the videos.
Where do we find it? For those of us who are...
So this is kind of a, it's Rustlang/core-team is the repo. And then there's issues in there. I have a question that I added as an urgent problem on the public agenda. I see that you have put them all into one board. So there's one board for with columns for public and for private, and now no one can see our board for the public part. Is it possible to make two boards?
I was looking at it and I think we can actually make it the actual board public. Like 1 second, let me add my bot account.
If you need to work on this, that's fine. I was just, if we could, I feel like seeing the board might be a little easier to follow along with than just the issues. Niger, did you find the issues? Okay.
I found the issues, but they're not on any board, right?
They're on the agenda board.
Oh, they're both on the same agenda.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it scrolls to the right for a long time.
1 second, okay.
Yeah.
Basically, I added my bot account, which doesn't have read access to the private repository. And it appears this way, so there are all the public cards, and then there are a bunch of you can't see this card if you want to share the private board.
Interesting. Okay, so that's one option.
I think a single board is easier during meetings because we have to only open one tab. I mean, that only leaks how much stuff we have on the private board, but it shouldn't leak the actual contents.
Except...
Does it leak their titles?
No, it just shows this card is not readable.
So for the notes that are directly added to the...
Yeah, those are not private. So
and does that include the card that has the Zoom?
Yeah, we'll need to remove that card.
Okay. I feel like I would... Is there anything preventing two boards?
Not really. The only thing preventing it is that it's easier to have a single board during the meetings for us.
Can we have I guess there's no way to have a public board that we don't use, but everybody else can see, right? You can only attach board per issue.
The only use of the board is to actually see the order in which we go through the issues during the meeting. It doesn't really have much information on it other than what's in the issues.
Okay. Well, let's give it a try and we'll see how it goes and see if we like it. Okay, so there are no more public urgent problems. I moved the white papers, they were under initiatives, and I moved them to periodic check-ins because I think our plan was to not check in on those as often, only when we have time to work on them or assign them to someone else to work on and things like that. So in the initiatives column, we have the, well, I'm going to reorder these. So Florian's not here, so we're going to skip the licensing status. The new one, Rust survey, looks new.
Yeah, I think Mark added it.
Well, yeah, I'm assuming Mark added it due to the conversation that was just occurring where we realized, oh, it's coming on time if we want to. So you can assign that to me probably, because I think one thing we'll try to do is work with a contractor again like we did last time, to do a lot of the sort of detailed number crunching. I'll have to get on that and figure that out. See if I can pull that off. It's a little tricky now because COVID. COVID's making everything that involves money very annoying. But we'll see what I can do. But anyway, we'll also get people organized on the other side of it. And there's a lot of work to be done that's not gated on that.
Okay. How about target tier policy, RFC? Anything there?
I haven't gotten around to it. I don't know if Petra or anybody has any other comments. I know there's an update. I just haven't had a chance to read it.
Yeah, like I left a comment and it still needs to be kind of addressed.
Okay. Governance working group check-in?
We had a meeting today. I think there were some takeaways. One of the things we were talking about is, well, we talked some about this question of the org structure and stuff, but I don't want to go into the details of that. But one thing we did say that I thought was interesting was that we might try to work with teams like that we haven't been doing as much. Basically, the vision for the governance team kind of would be that these are people who actually care about policy or enjoy like trying to think about write down what the policy should be for certain things. And that we have not found it's been hard for us to find a balance of how to do that without like telling teams what their policy is. But that what would be best to do would be like to go in and ask the team what they want the policy to be, then do the kind of grunt work of like trying to draft it and make it make sense, and then come back with it and get feedback and sort of do that cycle. And one of the things we thought about doing is a very simple step is just writing down sort of what are all the things that teams actually do. Which I don't really know how much is written down right now. In some teams it is, and in some teams it's not. And we were going to start by looking at the libs and compiler teams because the roles have actually been changing lately and it's gotten a little interesting. So sort of working towards like a charter for every team that the team agrees to. And that's kind of a preliminary sort of step along the way of when we have some taxonomy structures, then trying to fit them, now that we know what's happening, fit it to the structure that it best fits it.
Okay. I saw some discussion on the users forum about the licensing of the forms. Do we need to put that back on here?
Thank you for reminding me. Yes, we should do that. I meant to do.
Can you tell everyone why? Because I went and read the thread. But...
I can give an update. So the users forum, on the internals forum, nobody was upset about the new license, but there were some people who objected to the license terms on the users forum. And I wrote a kind of summary comment, but I think the key point of the objection, or at least the part I found most compelling, was that essentially in order to post code under these terms, you have to be able to license it under MIT Apache 2. And maybe people are coming to the users forum with like some snippet of code that has some other origin, like maybe they copy and pasted it from a GPL project so that they didn't think about it, or they just aren't thinking about that at all. And so they might accidentally sort of be mislicensing beyond what they have the power or intention to do. And that seems true. I'm not sure how, I don't know. I think that's true. So I took it to someone at Mozilla Legal and we talked it over, and I have to kind of write up, it was like over Slack, so I have to go turn it into a digestible response. The summary from that conversation was sort of, there is something here. It's not clear how big a problem it is relative, like some of these things already existed no matter what we do, some similar problems exist, but we could consider changing if we want. One thing some questions I might like feedback on is, do we care if users and internals have different terms of service? Because that would probably be the most logical setup. And secondly, one thing that we tossed out that might make sense, although I haven't thought about it too hard, is something that like an extra line that basically says, in the case of code that is copied from another source, the code retains its original licensing. The idea being if we copy and paste from some EPL project, that doesn't imply. And
I mean, I think the thing that you'd have to write is that it needs to also, you have to mention that it's copied from a place.
Yeah, that would sort of, in the case of code that is identified as being copied from another place.
Yeah.
I definitely think that having the forms be different is just asking for trouble.
Yeah,
So keeping them the same seems good.
I'm inclined to have them be the same. I'm not convinced that they're as different as people think they are anyway in terms of the kinds of things.
Definitely.
There's overlap for sure.
And one comment that I'd have that I can follow up with you later maybe on Nico is that and I only realized it when you were expressing then, is that the concerns are symmetric. So just as someone may not realize that they have the right to post that code because they might not have read the terms and conditions and so on and so forth, equivalently, someone may not realize that they don't have the right to use that code. So either way, there's probably a human solution here, which is to make explicit what's happening.
The truth is that it's pretty nebulous what the expectations are around this. I feel like anyone who's posting like their trademark code secrets onto users forum is asking for trouble. But
yeah, this kind of gets to like the second part. I think is sort of what Aiden was saying is like the purpose of these terms is so that we as a project are able to like assume something by default. And like if we make it so that people posting code, you have to like check and look at all the licenses, like it's moving their responsibility around. And like if somebody is already posting in code that's like not licensed appropriately, like that's their problem, but then also like becomes our problem if we don't blanket say that this is like the case. I think that also gets to the root of some of the complaints on users is some people are like, you know, I don't want to have to be responsible either. And I don't think that like you can't not be responsible, but just, I don't know.
So the code, there is already a statement that if you explicitly say otherwise, none of this is relevant, first of all. So it's always someone's option. But that's why I thought adding something that says like, or if there's an explicit source given for the code, like, that covers to me the most common examples that might occur. And beyond that, yes, it's sort of a matter of responsibility. And I think it's reasonable for us to say, you sort of shouldn't be posting things onto users that.
Yeah.
But
I think in general, this is probably almost entirely academic is the wrong word, but like the chance that someone is going to post code that is lengthy enough to be considered copyrightable and also something that is not shareable, but like would be socially acceptably shareable, but not like literally legally shareable is like very small, which the purpose of the law is to like cover edge corner cases and stuff, obviously, but like, yeah, I don't know.
I tend to agree with that. Anyway, that's the update. I will try to follow up on that. I didn't, I did some, as I said, but I have to digest.
All right, it's back on the board. Anything else for the public part of the meeting? All right, switching recordings.